Ladies and gentlemen, this is a really interesting article. It's actually very interesting. I'll read this to you. Bowing to Trump, GOP brings leaders' donors to his backyard. The Republican Party is bringing hundreds of donors and several presidential prospects to the former president's doorstep in South Florida this weekend. Gee, doesn't seem like Trump is on the run. Doesn't seem like he's just this pariah within the Republican Party. Actually, it looks like he's pretty much taken control of the Republican Party, which is the case, which is what I've been saying for a long time now. The GOP is nothing without President Trump because they don't have, like the Democratic Party, there are no policies that establishment Republicans have that get people excited, energized, enthusiastic about politics. When President Trump presides over the Abraham Accords, that's a foreign policy achievement. When President Trump is the first president to step foot in North Korea, where President Moon Jae-in of South Korea states that President Trump should get the Nobel Peace Prize because he did so, that's an achievement. That's a foreign policy accomplishment. You might not like his personality. You could say, well, President Trump's personality, he says these things. That's fine. Even I say that, President Trump shouldn't have said certain things. But I judge people by their actions, not by their words. I judge people by their actions. You can't tell somebody you love them and then betray them every 2 seconds. So you're judged in life by your actions. In terms of accomplishments, President Trump has done great things. We had record low unemployment throughout a good part of President Trump's tenure. I believe it was almost either half or more than half of his tenure as presidency. The economies that have tanked, the state economies that have tanked, 13 of the top 14, something along the lines of 13 of the top 14 or 15 state economies with the highest unemployment rates are Democratic-run states. That's not Trump's fault. The pandemic response could have been better, but guess what? He didn't send infected people into elderly care facilities like Andrew Cuomo. That's 15,000 lives lost. You cannot blame Trump for any specific decision. You can the accusations against President Trump are just, his handling. If he was more prepared, an earlier response would have. If a Democrat ran the country the way Andrew Cuomo ran New York, Lord knows how many lives lost we'd have. If anything, he did better. Trump's pandemic response, although not perfect, was a lot better than Andrew Cuomo's or Phil Murphy's or Whitmer's or other Democratic governors. 7 of the top 11 states with the highest aggregate number of lives, greatest number of lives lost, are Democratic-run states from the pandemic. That's according to the New York Times. According to the New York Times, the top 4 states with the highest per capita rates were Democratic-run states. But this is the Independent. Bowing to Trump, GOP brings leaders, donors to his backyard. The Republican Party is bringing hundreds of donors and several presidential prospects to the former president's doorstep in South Florida this weekend. There will be no reckoning at the Republican National Committee. I love that word reckoning, by the way. It just basically means anything Democrats allow to take place without an apoplectic or hysterical response, or anything that benefits them politically that that might not be healthy or productive, that they call simply a reckoning. But here, 3 months after former President Donald Trump helped, the GOP is bringing hundreds of donors and several future presidential prospects to the former president's doorsteps in South Florida, while a handful of Republican leaders hope to move past Trump's divisive leadership. Again, President Trump, the reaction to Trump was the divisive part. It's true, his leadership style, he could have built bridges, but then again, he was dealing with a Republican Party that investigated him. The Republicans, never forget, it was Republicans who investigated a Republican president. Hit subscribe to this channel right now. Tell your friends about this channel. If you want to read my writing in The Hill, The Huffington Post, Salon, The Jerusalem Post, The Federalist, The Daily Caller, The Roanoke Times, other publications, go to hagoodman.com. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to have something really special on hagoodman.com. And I'm going to unveil that very soon, perhaps even next week or in 2 weeks from now. But it's something that you'll really want to be part of. And I'll talk about that more a little later. But ladies and gentlemen, if you do want to support my voice, my Patreon is below. While I have it up, the location of the invitation-only gathering suggests that the party, at least for now, is not ready to replace Trump as its undisputed leader and chief fundraiser. Well, of course not. Even Mitt Romney, Mittens, stated that if President Trump runs, he's the GOP nominee without a doubt. Trump himself will headline the closed-door retreat, which is designed to raise millions of dollars for the GOP's political arm while giving donors access to the party's evolving group of 2024 prospects and congressional leaders. Think of the Durham probe. The Durham probe is really an investigation into why Republicans, not just Democrats, why Republicans investigated a Republican president. If they utilize the same standard to judge Democrats and wonderful, morally superior, really amazing liberal Democrats, if they utilize the same standard of accusation, a same standard of proof, all Trump would have to do is purchase a dossier and level the dossier against Hunter Biden or our beloved President Joe Biden or any political rival. But see, that's only allowed against Trump. That's only allowed. See, when Republicans who don't like him and Democrats utilize a dossier that was purchased by the DNC and Clinton, Twitter, there are no social media algorithms that say that's not fair. Oh, that's a disputed claim. There's misinformation. There's disinformation. This is baseless. You never get that sort of disclaimer. Why? You don't get that type of disclaimer because anything goes with President Trump. They will allow anything. They will allow any type of accusation. So they were obsessing over his tax returns. They never obsessed over Hunter Biden's emails, which actually show pay-to-play schemes. How can you use your influence on behalf of the company? That's not nepotism. And that's what they do all the time. They obfuscate and they try to confuse you with semantics, with this mangled attempt at utilizing words in a manner they shouldn't be utilized. The Hunter Biden story has nothing to do with nepotism, so you can't equate it or correlate it to Trump's children. Trump's children were never caught with like a crack pipe and photos of that, or they never had their .38 thrown into a trash dumpster near a school. They never were kicked out of the Navy for substance abuse issues. They never had emails showing pay-to-play schemes where Donald Trump had to deny that he actually met with business associates of Trump Jr. That never happened. Okay? The worst they have is the Trump Jr. meeting, which they obsessed over, which nobody found any wrongdoing. Nobody was indicted on that Trump Jr. meeting. Notice how emails that are incriminating with Hunter Biden, showing literally one email, how can you use your influence on behalf of the company? That has nothing to do with nepotism. It has to do with quid pro quo schemes, pay-to-play schemes. My God, it's so simple. But see, again, if you had a list of all the incriminating emails, they simply would say, where's the proof? Where's the evidence? They don't utilize the same rebuttal when Trump is accused of having worked with Putin. They say, well, we have to investigate. We have to investigate. And that's been the problem. The problem, ladies and gentlemen, is that you've had Republicans for too long allowing Democrats and media to get away with a certain standard of behavior leveled against Trump. This standard of behavior level, like this, the accusations, the hysteria, the nonstop allegations, the endless investigations. What they initially said was, well, this is payback for what the Clintons experienced, but the Clintons actually did things to warrant those investigations. Trump didn't. He never worked with Putin. He never obstructed the Mueller probe. He never should have investigated. There were intelligence operatives that literally stated, we will stop this man. Still, you can have bias through osmosis in this world. they're all like, everyone has bias except Peter Strzok, who said we'll stop Trump. There are rules for Democrats and everybody to the left, and then there are rules for President Trump. And Republicans enable all of this. They're like a person that gives an alcoholic, 20 vodka bottles. Republicans allow this. Slowly, you're going to have a Republican Party. In 2022, you'll have Republicans impeach Joe Biden because of Hunter's emails and the fact that he lied. Biden not only knew of his son's business dealings, but he was a part of the business dealings. So here, okay, the venue for the quarterly meeting, along with Trump's keynote speech at CPAC, shows that the party is still very much in Trump's grip, said one of the invitees, GOP, referring to Trump's. The party doesn't seem to have the ability to escape velocity from its former standard bearer. Okay, so there is no political party. There is no political party independent of President Trump. There's no political party independent of President Trump. Okay? It's different. The Democratic Party is a finely tuned political machine. They run on, legal graft, just like in Tammany Hall, the days of Tammany Hall. They get caught with their pants down, literally. They get favorable media coverage. Journalists don't investigate. Look at the difference between Bob Menendez, the Bob Menendez New Jersey senator. He's accused of having done worse than a Republican senator who we shall not talk about because I don't think it's algorithmically friendly. So he did worse. No obsession over New Jersey senator. None. In fact, you had the Washington Post eventually going to bat for the New Jersey senator. Okay? Same amount of evidence initially, and even worse allegations. And the New Jersey senator, Menendez, he had a mistrial. So he was actually on trial for a whole bunch of things. And he had the same, actually worse allegations. But again, there was no late night, like all the late night talk show hosts and MSNBC and CNN, it's not about value system or morality. It's about how can you disparage the political opposition while at the same time covering up your own sins, which happen to be worse. Democrats get away with worse. That's not opinion, it's fact. If you have pretty much all of media, nobody at the Washington Post or New York Times is wearing a Make America Great Again hat. They will go ahead. Right now, journalism is not about truth. It's about propping up one political side. There's a reason you have every single talk show host, intelligence operatives, all of Hollywood, all of the music industry, all of social media algorithms. You have every single thing possible, and Republicans like Mitt Romney and Ben Sasse propping up the Democratic Party. Imagine if things were just somewhat more balanced and fair. Imagine. Where would the Democratic Party be? Anyway, give me your thoughts below. Goes on to talk about you have donors. I mean, he's the number one attraction. Without Trump, I'm telling you, I used to be a lifelong Democrat. I used to be the biggest Bernie Sanders booster on the internet, according to the Huffington Post, and the unofficial scribe of Sanders' most hardcore voters, according to the Washington Post. I'm telling you, I know the way the left works. Without every conceivable advantage, there really isn't a Democratic Party. They have managed to merge American society with their political party. They've done a pretty good job. I give them credit for a really despicable thing in injecting politics into every facet of American life. Republicans eventually will fight back. It'll take until 2022 when the House goes red. Give me your thoughts below. Hit subscribe right now. I should do a segment prior to 12 a.m. Pacific, so be here in an hour or so. Thank you.